In the future, it's illegal for poor people to run. The moment the man realized this, he stopped in his tracks, but it was already too late. His phone immediately flashed a warning, notifying him that he'd broken the law. He barely looked up before a police drone appeared right in front of him. After scanning and confirming Mateo's identity, the drone released a pair of silver handcuffs and ordered him to put them on within 5 seconds. Mateo tried to talk his way out of it, hoping to fool the system with a lie. But the drone analyzed his facial expressions and voice patterns and quickly determined he was lying. As Mateo kept trying to explain himself, the drone activated its stun device, ready to use force. With no other choice, Mateo reluctantly put on the handcuffs. He followed the drone to a prison, but to his surprise, the entire facility was completely empty. Following the drone's instructions, Mateo placed his personal belongings in a storage locker. Then a conveyor belt delivered a prison uniform. After changing into it, the system led him into a cell, and the heavy iron door slammed shut behind him. A large screen on the wall began playing an introduction to the prison's various services, but Mateo couldn't care less about any of that. All he wanted to know was when he'd be free again. That's when the screen displayed profiles of several lawyers. Mateo picked the one with the highest rating, only to find out that hiring them would cost $10,000. There was no way he could afford that kind of fee, so he had no choice but to go with the free public defender. The system then ran an analysis of his case, predicting an 89% chance of a guilty verdict, with an estimated sentence of 45 to 47 years. Panicked, Mateo tried to argue his innocence, but the system advised him not to waste his time and to plead guilty as soon as possible. By admitting guilt, he could potentially shave 5 to 7 years off his sentence.
Are you sure you want to plead guilty? Please repeat the words, plead guilty, to confirm your decision.
No, I'm not guilty.
At that moment, Mateo nearly broke down. He felt like the entire justice system was designed to force him into a confession. Determined to prove his innocence, he demanded to confront the witnesses and tried switching to a human representative by contacting the local police department. But just then, the screen popped up a massive wall of complex terms and conditions. Mateo didn't have the patience to read through any of it and hit agree right away. The call went through, but on the other end was nothing but a cold AI customer service agent. The system informed him that to be transferred to a human representative, he'd need to wait. So Mateo waited for 3 full hours. He'd actually dozed off when a notification sound startled him awake. But when he picked up the phone, he discovered the call had already been disconnected by the system. Then the screen displayed a notice showing that his account balance had been completely drained. It turned out every call in this place was a paid service, charged at $3 per minute. Mateo furiously confronted the system, calling it a total scam, but the system immediately pulled up the agreement he'd just signed. And sure enough, the terms clearly stated a rate of $3 per minute. Seeing this, Mateo sank into complete despair. He screamed and raged inside his cell, cursing the whole rigged system, but the system offered no response. When he finally wore himself out and collapsed onto the bed to rest, the system asked if he'd like the lights turned off. To his utter disbelief, even that came with a fee. With no money left, Mateo could only lie there in silence and endure it. The next day, the system introduced him to the prison's various services and explained that even behind bars, he could earn wages through labor. Mateo chose manual work, and soon a box full of materials was delivered to his cell. Following a tutorial, he started learning how to knit sweaters. With nothing else to do all day, Mateo threw himself into the work to pass the time. For each sweater he finished, a few cents were added to his account. Watching his balance slowly climb, Mateo felt a small spark of hope reignite inside him. He started taking on more complex designs, hoping to earn a bit more. Of course, the cost of his daily meals was deducted straight from his wages. Day after day, Mateo kept working, and his balance gradually grew. Finally, the day came when he'd saved up $5, and he decided to call his mother. The call connected quickly, but before Mateo could even explain what had happened to him, his mother launched into a stream of chatter. Watching his balance drain in real time, Mateo cut her off and told her he was in prison, begging her to find a way to get him out. His father immediately came to the screen, anxiously asking what had happened. By now, Mateo only had $2 left. He couldn't afford to waste a second. He quickly told his father that he was trapped in prison and needed $10,000 for a lawyer, or he might never get out. But right after he got the crucial information out, the system cut the call again, and his balance hit zero. Then the little robot popped up once more, asking if he was ready to plead guilty. Pushed to the breaking point, Mateo screamed at the screen. But after the outburst, he forced himself to calm down. To have any chance of getting out, he picked up his tools and went back to knitting. One day while Mateo was eating, a police drone arrived at his cell to remind him that his court date had come. The system informed him once again that if he pleaded guilty now, his sentence could be reduced by 5 to 7 years. Hearing this, Mateo felt all hope drain away. He was convinced there was no way out. The system asked him for a final confirmation. Would he admit his guilt?
Please say, I plead guilty to accept.
Wait.
Please state your plea.
Wait!
Sorry, I didn't get that. Do you want to enter a guilty plea? Please say, I plead guilty to accept.
I plead guilty.
But just then, Mateo noticed an unread message. He opened it and discovered that his mother had transferred the lawyer's fee. With hope suddenly alive again, Mateo immediately declared himself not guilty and demanded to speak with a top-tier lawyer right away. The lawyer's call came through quickly. But before Matteo could even explain his situation, the lawyer said his case was extremely complicated and recommended that he plead guilty. The lawyer then reviewed Matteo's file and cross-referenced some documents. But suddenly, he told Matteo to hold on a moment, and then hung up. Just like that, $10,000 vanished, and Matteo lost his last shred of hope. He had no choice but to accept his fate. But to his surprise, it wasn't long before the system notified him that he was free to go. Confused, Matteo walked out of his cell and collected his belongings. When he turned on his phone, it was flooded with unread messages. It turned out that while he'd been locked up, he'd been evicted from his apartment for unpaid rent, and his job had let him go for being absent too long. On his way out, Matteo was handed a flyer. It advertised a textile factory that specifically offered jobs to recently released inmates. In the end, Matteo had spent a full $10,000 and walked away with a job knitting sweaters.